This conference will now be recorded.
Fine. Okay. So in the last session, we created location for business unit. Just we gone through that enterprise information, how the predefined definition is available. If you want to change the name, how to change, we have seen, and how to create the location for business unit, and how to create the business unit, how to assign the business functions, how to create the legislative data group, how that can be assigned to legal entity. This is what we completed, right? Why we created legislative data group and why we assigned to legal entity. At the time of employee user creation, we have to select legal entity. When you select legal entity, system will verify the legal entity is associated with the legislative data group or not. Legislative data group is country specific payroll definition. So when you select legal entity, system will understand, oh, that employee, he falls under so and so the registration of the company, and the employee payrolls will be running under which legislative data group. That system has to understand. That is the reason we have to connect legislative data group to legal entity to business employee user. Okay, so for that reason we completed these tasks. Ideally those should be done by HCM consultants if you are going to implement HCM solution also for your client. Otherwise, anyway, we should aware of it, what is the dependency, how those need to be defined in the system. Now we'll go and see the employee user creation. Okay, so from where we are creating the implementation user? From security console, right? From security console we are creating implementation user. So within the navigator and the tools we have security console. From security console we are creating the implementation user. If you want to create employee user, from where we have to create? We have a separate task. Okay, we have a separate task, so that you can do from the project or directly from the search page. Just click on setup and maintenance. Click on task list. You can find the task from the project. If not from the project, directly from the search page also. We'll do from the search page. It is possible to do from here also. So what is the task name? Task name is manage users. Okay, by using the task called as manage users. Here user means employee user. So search for task called as manage users. By using this task, we can create the employee user. Okay, manage users. Click on manage users. If you want to find existing employee users, you can search with employee user, or else you can expand the search, advanced search. Just keyword means user employee name. Just click on advanced. So you can search with the department name, the employees who are belongs to so and so department. You can find out with the job based, country based, or name, mail ID, location, city. This is how, this is a criteria to search existing employees. But anyway, we didn't create any employee. We'll create, if required we'll search it. Okay, so to create the new employee user, click on manage users. Just click on create. Okay, just click on create. Fine. So provide last name. See the user, which employee user which you are going to create, this is very basic definition. So based on this basic definition, HCM consultants, they'll have access to separate pages where they can add lot of other information for this employee user definition, or say employee. Okay, So for any application, you may implement any applications. For in those applications, if you need employee user, this is a place from where we create. Based on this record, HCM people can add a lot of other information based on the business process or the HCM solution which they are going to implement, which need to be associated to employee. That's a different thing. Just here we are going to create employee only, but we are going to provide the username also for that employee if that employee need access to instance. That's all. If you have 1,000 employees in the organization, 1,000 employees may not have access to the Fusion instance. There may be just employees who will be doing their work, for which employees instance access is required. Only for those employees will give the username. Okay, that's how we have to define it. Fine. The last name. Okay, and just we are going to enter the fields which are mandatory. Rest we can see and understand not required. I'm giving the, of course it's employee name, but I'm giving just ERP tree. The person last name you have to enter. I just given as ERP tree. The first name, middle name, the title for the employee, everything you can provide here. Since those fields are not mandatory, I'm not entering. And provide employee mail ID. Okay, so just provide any mail ID. Fine. So high date by default system is taking today date. You can accept. You are creating the employee. For this employee, if you think this employee required access to the instance, you have to provide the username. So we need username as ERP tree. Fine. So here you have to select person type. By default, we can see there's two person types. One is employee, other one is contingent worker, contract employee. If you click on this drop down, you could see many names. Because this instance is Vision instance, the other values which you see here, those are created by HCM people when they are practicing on the instance or as a part of Vision instance Oracle created. In the fresh instance, you can see only these two values, contingent worker and employee. The rest of all are created by using the person type lookup. You don't need to worry about it. Since we are going to create employee, you have to select employee here. Now system will ask us to select legal entity, nothing but legal employer. Legal entity creation time we enabled one checkbox called as legal employer, right? So that is the reason you can call the legal entity as legal employer. Legal employer only means registration, who is as an authority to run the business, the legalization process, that you can call as a legal entity, or the same you can call as legal employer also. There is no difference between the legal entity and legal employer, both are same. Now we have to select the legal entity. Select legal entity. So you have to select the legal entity, to which legal entity LDZ, legislative data group, is assigned. That's very important. Otherwise system won't accept to select here. Our legal entity name is ERP tree. Search and select. Select and say OK. And select business unit. So select our business unit. What is our business unit? ERP tree US business unit, right? And here we have to understand one point. As a part of employee user creation or employee definition, you may not give the username. You may just create employee, whatever it may be. But now our target is employee user. Now our target is employee user. So it can be just an employee or including the username. That means employee user. Whatever it may be, you have to give the business unit as a mandatory. If you provide the business unit here, don't think this ERP tree user will get connected to ERP tree US business unit by default. No. Okay. If you want to connect any user for any business unit, that is possible only through roles only. If you want to allow this ERP tree user to work on purchasing process, say creating the requisition and creating the purchase order, you have to assign purchasing related roles to that user. To those roles only you have to assign the business unit. But as a part of user definition, we have to select the business unit. Don't think this user can perform the transaction for this business unit. I may give the business unit here as a ERP tree US business unit, but I can assign the roles to this user. To those roles, I will assign ERP tree India business unit. Then this user can have access to only ERP tree India business unit. Even you are including the business unit within the user definition time, this user cannot connect. It is a mandatory you have to define. This ideally will be useful when this user is going to record the expense reports. Right, employees will write just incur some expense, they'll raise the expense reports, they'll be booking the expense reports. So in those scenarios only this business unit will be used for this user. For other business transactions purpose, this business unit cannot be accessed by the same user. Just it would be available as information. Only this business unit will get defaulted if this user is going to book the expense reports. Okay, if the user is going to submit the expense reports at that time, the user is belongs to which business unit, in that context the BU would be, this BU would be available. This BU won't be available to any user, this user, to record the business transaction until unless the same BU you will go and assign to the roles. Any question here to understand this point, please?
Do you provide expense account as well while booking the requisitions? While it is defaulting from your account will be defaulting from expense account, right? In EBS
I'm not talking about expense account, expense reports. Do you know expense reports?
Type expense report type means
No. That is a
Is it
finance
IE expense report?
Ideally every employee will have a understanding about, normally if you are working, normally you will book the expense review and incur will be submitting the expense report, right, for reimbursement purpose.
yeah, okay.
That's what I'm talking about. This employee, this user may belongs to, this user is the employee in the organization, he may work for procurement process, but this employee spend some $100, has to submit that expense report for reimbursement, right? As a part of normal organization solution, will have access to the expense report related system. If you talk about our EBS, we have I expense. In Fusion, the same I expense we call as Fusion expense.
Okay.
Through Fusion expense application access, every employee will have access to that functionality. Every user will have, okay, who is created employee, they'll have access, they can book the expenditure. In your company you have that provision of submitting the expense reports, this business unit will get defaulted, that's all.
Okay, but don't you provide expense account? That is my question.
Expense accounts will provide account. Okay, you are talking about employee level expense account.
Correct. While creating
that will provide, we'll see that when we are I'll just show you now. In this stage you cannot give. After creating this employee, you have to add as a separate step. Okay. But as a part of simple employee user definition, expense account is not required. If you are going to book the expense reports, then it is required. Now I'm just discussing the point where this business unit will be useful. Okay. So if you are going to book the expense reports, then only this business unit is required. Otherwise, nowhere it would be useful. This user cannot have access to this business unit when they are working on purchasing application or order management application or any other application. If you want to allow this user to have access to this business unit or any business unit, that you have to provide through role access only. First, we have to assign the purchasing manager role, for example. To that role, you have to assign the business unit. To that business unit only, this user will have access, not because the BU is associated to this user with the business unit field. No, this is only for to connect expense report only. Yeah. So this is the point we have to understand. Fine. If that, I mean, we know, like as a part of HCM, even in HRMS also, EBS HRMS also, we have job flex field, grade flex field, position flex field, and competence and costing, right? So people group flex field. These are 6 key flex fields we have, which are part of HR and payroll applications. Okay, so but employee level, they are giving the option of mapping job and grade. Ideally, when we create employee also in EBS, we go to the assignments and we do the assignment called as job and grade, right? All those will do. But here by default they given job and grade assignment. But anyway, these are not required. It's not related to HCM solution, etc. So just we are trying to create user, employee user. Let's see how to define it. We given the name and we given the email ID and we given the username. Person type select as employee, and it will ask you to select the legal intent business unit to specify. That would be enough to create the employee user. Are we finding anything here as a password? No, we are not setting the password. User notification preferences. In the preferences, you can select as a send password notification. In that case, it will send the notification, but just you can keep as is or you can ignore. Now it won't send in this environment. That preferences are not there specified. Okay, so passwords and all will be setting from security console. What happens, after creating this user would be available in the security console. That means the users which you create from HCM, this manage users task is belongs to HCM application. Whenever you create the user information would be available in the security console. That means the employee user information will sync with security console. From security console only, we can set the password and we can assign the roles. Whatever we do, when you create the implementation user within the security console, the same will be doing for the employee user also from there itself. Okay, so just this is how just we have to provide the information, then say save and close. System will create employee user now. Okay, employee it will create, username also be given, then system will create the employee user with the name called as ERP tree. Okay, with the name called as ERP tree, system will create the employee user. Will search and will find the employee user here itself. Somebody raise the point expense account. What about expense account? If you are going to book the expense reports by this employee for this specific business unit, that point also will have a look, then we'll proceed with the next step. So here we can find our user which we created just now. Search with the term called as ERP tree only. That is the username we given. Click on search. So this is our user definition. This is the username. The employee name and the username we given same ERP tree, and email ID whatever we given the same system is displaying. If you want to set that expense report as somebody asked, you have to go to actions. Oh, it's not opening the actions here. Sometimes browser issues also won't allow to do this, or else reset, just submit again, search and try again. Here it has to open the small panel. It's not opening. We'll try in the different browser. Mozilla is very much compatible, but sometimes here and there you may see something are not working. But compared to other browsers, it's very much compatible. Go to the same task. Okay, sorry. Manage users, right? Search. Find our user. Click on actions. It's not opening from here also. Maybe in this instance it might not be working. I'm not very sure. Just 1 second. Fine. We'll try in the different other browsers. So Chrome. Just 1 second, please. We'll try from the Chrome browser. Task name is manage users. Sorry. Search. Click on actions. Here also is not. I think seems in this environment there may be some issue with that. Once you click on this here, you'll have information. You will have an option, okay, to add additional details. There you can add the expense account. I'll show in the different instance. Anyway, we are not going to book any expense report since that is finance related application. But just since we discussed about, show you in the different instance.
Sorry, Lakshman. I believe you need to click on the user and go to actions.
I selected user, right?
Yeah,
no?
It's working for me in Chrome. Yeah.
I didn't select user. Oh, yeah, yeah, correct. I just only one record by default system select. Normally only one record means system only will select. I didn't notice that. Okay, yeah. That's what missing. So this is what manage expense information. I thought it got selected. Okay, fine. So if you go to this manage expense information here, you have a default expense account. Here you can provide that expense account. That. So that's all about user definition. Okay, now what happens is we'll just close in the different browsers. You can keep it open, no issues, but just we'll close it. So done, we created a user, employee user. Now this employee user will sync with the security console. Okay, this employee user will sync with the security console. So go to security console, we can find this ERP tree user. Go to security console. So go to users. Our username is ERP tree. Search. So this is a user which we created just now. And if you notice, the business unit is associated this user. The current user which you are using is that is a Go ERP tree. It's implementation user. How can you say no business unit, no person number? Just you can check business unit, that would be enough. If no business unit, that is implementation user, which is created from security console. So this user is created from employee user definition page. That is the reason you can see the business unit. Now you have to reset the password for this user. Go to actions. Of course, not resetting, we are going to set the password. So far we didn't set any password. Click on reset password, and just provide the password for this user. And say save, reset password. So this is how we have to create implementation employee user that will sync with the security console. From security console, you can set the password and just click on the user name, and we'll go and assign all the roles, required roles for this user. From now, we'll continue with this user only. We can forget about the previous and current user which you are using, which is implementation user. Just click on edit. Here you can add the roles. To make this user as a implementation user, how you can call as implementation user, which user has a required role access, that user is implementation consultant. Implementation user, which user has access to application implementation consultant, IT security manager, and employee roles, that user can act as an implementation consultant. But by default, if you create any user from security console, ideally we create for implementation purpose. That is the reason that user we call as implementation user. Now you can make this employee user, you can make as implementation user by assigning the required roles. Okay, which roles we have to assign? Those 3 roles. We'll go and assign 3 roles to this user. Click on add role. After completing this role assignments and all, we'll see what is the auto provision roles and all. We'll see that. Okay, role name is application implementation consultant, right? Application implementation consultant. Select only consultant, don't go with the manager and administrator. So only application implementation consultant can have access to complete configuration related areas. Okay, if you assign manager, manager will have less permissions compared to this role. Okay, select consultant role only and select, click on add role membership. Nothing but we are assigning. The other 2 more roles also will go and assign. Those are IT security manager. So select role and assign. Other role is employee. Okay, done. Now to have access to GL related functionality, we have 5 roles, right? We'll go and assign those 5 roles also, because going forward we'll be working with transferring data to GL and looking after journals which are created against subledger transactions. So that is the reason we need access to GL application transaction process, also journal creation or something else. So assign GL roles also. For previous user, what are the roles we assign? The same roles we assign to this user. We have 5 roles, right? Hope you remember those. General accountant, assigned. The next role is general accounting manager. Assign. Chief financial officer. Select and assign. Say okay. And controller. Select and say assign. And we have one more role called as financial analyst. Select and assign. Just click on done. We assign required roles to our new user, employee user. Okay, say save and close. Now, after assigning any application specific roles, what we have to do? We have to provide the data access, right? That means for this GL roles, we'll go and assign our primary ledger. What is the task we have to use? Anyone? Task name is
Manage
Data access.
manage data access.
Manage data access.
manage data access for users, right? Task name is manage data access for users. Go to setup and maintenance. You can go to search page, search for data access for users. We know manage we have, but that is prefix for most of the tasks that you don't need to type to search. Directly you can search. So here is the task, manage data access for users. Just click on this task and just click on create, and you can select our user. So user is ERP3. So only assigned roles you can see. The first role, this is the one which you can select, and select security contest. Security contest, what we want to assign? Data access. Nothing but our primary ledger. We know already discussed, against each primary ledger, system creates data access set automatically. That's what we are going to assign, which is equal to our primary ledger only. So ERP3 USA primary ledger. Just click on duplicate. It will open one more record space by copying the same information. You can modify, you can keep user as this, and after this select controller role. Contest is data access only. Select your primary ledger. Again click on duplicate. Financial analyst, data access set. ERP3 USA primary ledger. Again click on duplicate. General accountant. Security contest is same. For all we are going to assign our primary ledger only. Again click on duplicate. So role is general accounting manager. Security contest, ERP3 USA primary ledger. Then only we assign 5 GL roles. Since these are application specific, we have to connect what level that application works. We know GL works at primary ledger level as per multi-org structure, or even if you refer EBS multi-org structure or Fusion enterprise structure. Okay, fine. Now say save and close. Okay, we have some other information which you have to understand from this page also. We'll see going forward when we start with the purchasing inventory. At the time we'll see those points. For now, not required. Say done. So what after that, what we have to do when we assign the roles? So we created employee user, we assign the roles to the employee user, we provided data access. Now we have to run LDAP job. Just submit LDAP job, which is recommended. Go to navigator and go to schedule processes. So instead of taking this navigation, clicking on navigator icon, finding tools, finding under tools, schedule process, clicking on that, instead of doing all this, you can select this page into favorites. Okay, you can select the schedule processes page as a favorites. Here you have a favorites. just click on, we are landing in this schedule process page, which is equal to SRS window in EBS. Here we are calling as ESS job page, enterprise scheduler service job page. Just you can click on as a favorite, it will be selected into favorite. Okay, say add to favorites, you can give the name. I'll write it as ESS job page, enterprise scheduler service job page. The same in EBS we call as SRS window. You can take the favorites into folders also. You can create the folder and you can select into a folder. Now we'll take directly. From next time onwards, if you want to come to this ESS job page, simply you can click on favorites and you can click on ESS job page. It will display the same page. You don't need to go to navigator and you don't need to go to schedule processes, selection and all not required. Directly click on favorite, click on relevant page. That's all. Fine. Anyway, now we'll go and submit LDAP job, lightweight directory access protocol, which will update these changes which we did against the user and related roles. Search for LDAP. Okay, say okay. What it will do, it will synchronize users, roles, role related grants with the definition called as LDAP. Say okay. In Fusion, what are the job you run? That may be to process some data or to generate some report, whatever it may be. It could be the job may be related to report or some process oriented job. It will give the description. Whenever you select, you can understand what purpose that is. Okay, but in EBS, if you know, then only you can do it, or else even you are doing, we cannot get any clue until unless the purpose is written as a name itself. Fine. Just click on submit. Already we discussed this LDAP job runs at instance level. Okay, when you are practicing in any issue you see with this, you don't need to worry about it. Okay, ideally it will be running smooth, but sometimes if you see it is ending with a error or warning, or just it is still running, you don't need to worry about it. Just submit and proceed with your work. So as you assign the roles to the user, if those are not working, you have to wait for some time. Ideally, system will perform the synchronization. We don't need to do anything. Okay, so just submit, that's it. Other side system will be running the auto synchronization. It will run, but Oracle recommends to run it. The reason is there could be a number of jobs in the queue in the enterprise scheduler process. So in that case, if you run with a priority, it would be submitted. That is the reason we have to run it. Otherwise, and all the requests which are in the jobs which are in the queue in that process need to be executed, and that's how it has to be done. So here just that scenario you don't see, because whenever you perform that activity, system will take into that queue and expect within that queue only it will be complete as soon as possible. Reason, in this instance we don't have multiple users who are working, who are submitting the transactions, who are submitting some relevant processes and all, you don't see. That is the reason. So one time, for one instance, one time only one LDAP job can be submitted. That is the reason there won't be any too much of big queue for this jobs in these environments when you are practicing. Even when you are implementing also, ideally implementation time, no users will be recording the transactions, right? Once system will go live, they'll do it. In those scenarios, it may take some time to synchronize the changes. Otherwise, ideally it has to complete as soon as possible. Just as a recommendation, you submit and proceed with your work. That's all. So we submit it. Now we'll just log out from the current user. The current user is Go ERP tree user. Sign out from this user. Now log into the instance as a ERP tree user. This is a user which we created as a employee user. So this is all about employee user and roles assignments. Any questions here, please?
Lakshman, with the general accountant, I can create journals, right, and post the journals, right?
Yes, you can do that. General accountant.
Yeah.
That role
So
will be
with the
having access. Yes.
Yeah. No, with the current with the current user, you created 5 roles, and with the new user
Not
also you
created.
created 5
1
roles.
second. We don't call it as
No, yes,
create.
I think
Yes.
you are fine. Sorry, you
Yeah.
are fine.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, what is the reason why you are assigning 5 roles to the user?
Just to give you the information, those are the 5 seeded Oracle is giving. That's all. And again,
Okay.
the general accountant role doesn't have all privileges related to GL functionality. That is the reason I said. Okay, but we are not going to use, but just for understanding point of view. So one role doesn't have full all privileges related to GL. The combination of all the roles will have complete access, complete full privileges to entire functionality of general ledger application. That is the reason I just given. Fine. So any other questions here, please?
Lakshman here. So we created the the employee user, then same employee user, we converted to this security console user also. That is implementation user also.
No, don't say we, no, 1 second. Don't say we converted as a security console user. We didn't convert. The same employee user which you created, that is getting synchronized with the security console. That is available in the security console for role assignments and all. That's all.
Okay.
Even
Even
convert, that is available here.
Okay. Suppose if we want to, the employee, we want to use for employee user use like a implementation user, then we have to add the 3 role. That is important. Am I correct?
That's what we did just now. Right.
Yes, we did. Yes, yeah. So
see, implementation user whom you can call who has a required role privileges. 3 roles you can assign. First you can call them as a some noise. Okay. Any user. Say I'll create one user from security console. I'll create one user called as security console ABC. Do you call that user as a implementation user? Just I created.
We have to no. We should associate the add role 3 roles.
The point we have to understand. Yes. If you can assign the roles which will help that user to work as implementation consultant, then you can call as that is an implementation user. But another point is there. Ideally, we create users from security console for implementation purpose only. Otherwise, there is no use.
No use. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we have.
Then the reverse also possible. No, suppose I created the implementation user, then later on the implementation user should be associated some purchasing role and responsibility. Then he can create the purchase order and all. Am I correct?
That's what we discussed very detailed level.
Yes.
Implementation user cannot perform any purchasing related transactions. Only employee user only, right? Yes. I'm not sure whether you attended those classes or not.
So even we can't assign those roles also, you're telling?
You can assign, but you cannot.
Okay. Oh, got it. Yeah. Yes.
Discuss about user types and the meaning of users. See, if this ABC, the current implementation user, can perform all the transactions, means we can go ahead with the same user. So only employee user can work on purchasing application. The documents can be created by only that employee user only, and the supplier definition also can be possible. The complete definition can be possible only employee user, not implementation user. You can assign the roles. Even roles are there. System will verify this user is created from security console or this user is employee user. System will have a check. The system identifies the user has access to purchasing application, but user is created from security console, not allowed to perform the requisition purchase order creations. and supplier definitions are not possible.
Oh, thanks, Lakshman. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, fine. So any other questions? Fine. Now we'll see one simple point here, which we are finding at user creation time. So when you go to user, so for this ERP tree user also we assigned IT security manager, right? That is the reason from this user also you can have access to security console access. For this ERP tree user we assigned IT security manager, which will provision the access to, which will give the access to security console, right? Go to security console. Find our user. Any user you can just go with that just to see that point. Click on the username. Click on edit. So here add role means we know we can assign the roles. What is this add auto provision roles? Nothing but auto provisioning. Add auto provision roles. What is the meaning of auto provision roles? We'll see that. So we can define few rules. Okay, here manually we assign all these roles, right, to this user. Instead of assigning manually, automatically you can assign the roles to the user with certain rule definitions. Okay, so when you create any user, your requirement is for any user you have to assign the role called as, for any user which role you have to assign, which role you think you have to assign for any user and every user.
Employee.
Employee. In the same way, if some person is working for a specific department, there could be some default roles which need to be assigned, right? If employee is working for department called as purchasing, you may have to assign default role called as buyer. The same way, if employee is working for HR department, there could be some default role, say HR specialist role need to be assigned. That means depending on criteria, or it could be some open criteria or some specific conditional based criteria. If you have a requirement of assigning the roles to users automatically based on the criteria, you can define that rules. Those rules will assign the roles to the users automatically. Okay, normally this is reality. It is normally we don't use in the projects also. Somewhere if we require, we can use it. So we'll see anyway how it works. Later you can take the decision whether that you can use in your project or not. Okay. Fine. So go to project or search page, any page you can go. We'll go to search page. Go to search. Sorry. Say here we can just search with the term called as role provisioning. Just search with the term called as role provisioning. So here is the task called as manage HCM role provisioning rules. You can go with this task or else you can use this task. Both are same. Manage role provisioning rules or manage HCM role provisioning rules. Both are same. You can select any one of them. Fine. Just click on create. Okay, you can create that role mapping rule. That means you can say some condition. So condition, if legal employer, legal entry so and so roles need to be assigned to the user automatically. Employee user, that to employee user we are talking about. Implementation user, just you may create one initial stage, later everything the show will run with the employee users only, right? So if legal entity is so and so, which roles system has to assign to the user automatically, that you can associate those roles here. If business unit is so and so, which roles need to be assigned, or else department level, base, job base, position or grade, location, or assignment base, these are related to HCM. Okay, our system person type and the user type, and this all we have. Any level you can set the auto provisioning rule. I will give the name testing. I'm giving the name as testing. So what I want to do is, if you create any employee by selecting the employee type or person type as employee, automatically system should assign the role called as employee. That is my requirement. That is a default role, right? Employee role is default. So what I have to do is, see here, user person type is freezed. That will open when you select system person type. When you select system person type, based on system person type, user person type function will work in HCM. So just select system person type. So system person type select as a employee and select user person type. So the user person type only we select at the time of employee user creation. We also selected employee. Now I am setting the rule. If you are going to create any user by selecting the person type as employee, it has to assign the role called as employee. That you have to specify here. So select role called as employee. You are setting the condition. If you want to assign few more just for testing only, right? You can assign. And it has to assign the role called as buyer also. There's a role called as buyer.
Based on the job, we can do it. You mean to say?
Any level. Just now I'm taking example of person type. Yes, you can take based on the job.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, job. Here we have. Any condition you can take. Combination also you can take. Okay, based on legal employer and business unit. With that combination, you may set some rules. If those are meeting, accordingly system will allow us to add the rules automatically. Fine. So here a simple condition we are creating. When you create the employee user, for employee user level, if you select person type as a employee, automatically these two roles need to be assigned to that employee user. That is a condition. Or else you may specify department also, right? Employee creation time, you can select department, job, and all those also, right? We have seen. Once again, we'll go to see that. But now we are taking if person type is employee, or else person type is contingent worker. Okay, contingent, you can just select from the search. There are many other definitions. These all can be created from lookup. So now I'm giving rule as a, if person type is employee, system has to assign these two roles automatically. That is a rule. Save, close.
Yeah, employees, maybe a number of employees if you create. I don't want
Any
to.
employee, here no specification, instance level.
But I don't want to give for all this buyer access.
Then what you have to do is, for that you can create some different criteria. Combination, you can go with a different combination.
Yeah.
Person type is employee, department is
Yeah.
purchasing. For this combination only, you assign the combination role called as buyer.
Correct.
Just for employee, you can assign the role called as employee only. This is how you can create a number of rules. That's how you can manage. Okay.
Okay.
Now we'll quickly go and create the employee. Yeah, please go ahead.
So you have to create number of multiple.
Yes,
combination.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Now we created one. In the same way, you go and create one more called as person type is employee, department is purchasing. You create like that. You create by selecting the same person type as employee, department as purchasing. Whatever the role you assign, that only will get default. For that combination, you may give only one role called as buyer. When you go with that combination, it will add only one role automatically. Okay, that's how it works.
Lakshman only provides the roles, right? Role assignment, right? It does
Only
not give the
role
data access.
of assigning manually, you can automate it. That's it. Wherever it is
Yeah.
applicable, there only we do it. Ideally, we assign normally, like for every user, you cannot assume. There could be some common for every user, but generally that we don't use, that can be used in ideally HRMS point of view when they create employees, some departments based, they may create rules. In SCM side, finance side, and other areas, ideally we assign. That is somewhere it is applicable, you can create rule and you can do accordingly, no issues.
Lakshman,
Okay.
so do we use this auto provisioning rule in our project while doing an implementation?
Normally not required, not required. If you see very large volume of, I mean, n number of users you are creating, many users has some common role assignment with by following some condition criteria, so and so departments, so and so role is mandatory. In that case, you may use it. It is not mandatory you have to use. If you think it is useful, it will help you, you can do it. Otherwise, ideally we do through manual process. Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, generally we use for read-only access. So what is the way to provide only read-only access?
At role level, you have to do it. Role customization. Okay, role level we have option. We'll see when we are doing the role customization, I'll show you that. Here you cannot do anything. Okay. I'll give the username as testing. The condition is if person type is employee. If person type, if I select a contingent worker, no roles will be assigned. If person type is employee, then only it will assign. And you may set the combination, department is purchasing. If you define the rule as person type is employee, department is purchasing, which roles need to be auto provisioned. That you may set accordingly, it will be provisioned. Okay, now we define only for person type. We'll go and complete this user definition. We'll see how it works. Just for testing we are creating, ignore this user definition. Fine. So done. So you may create the rule with the combination of person type is employee, if business unit is so and so, or else person, legal employer, business. With these three combination also you can define. Now you can select any legal employer, any business unit. If person type is employee, it will add those two roles what we define. Okay, here you have below auto provision roles. Okay, auto provision roles. Okay, no issues here. Basically, if you just click, it will display here also. No problem, no issues here. Auto provision roles we given, it's applicable. So let's proceed directly over there. In earlier versions, they are displaying here only. If you click on that here only, it will display those two roles. Now in these versions, just that level only, like in security console, you can see. We created a user, just you created a user, person type is employee. The same person type employee, we just defined rule for auto provisioning. Now go to.
Do we need to click the button?
No, not required, not required. I forgot that like earlier version, I just clicked on it. The earlier version, when you click on that, those two roles will display here only. But ultimately, we required security console level. We have to see that, right? You don't need to click on.
It provisions automatically during user creation, but not existing users, right?
Sorry, for not existing. After that rule, whatever the users you create for that would be applicable. Okay. After rule definition, whatever the users you create for those users, that would be applicable. The dates system will track. Now find our user testing, right? We created a user as a testing. Go to this testing. What system did? Auto provision. person type is employee. It has to assign these two roles. We written the rule, right? So that is the meaning of auto provisioning. And if you go here, sometimes it may not associate, it may not assign automatically. In that case, you just click on this tab. It is not reflecting, it will reflect if you click on this add auto provision roles, then it will add. So here it is enabled as auto provision roles. If you assign, that won't show as auto provision, means automatically the roles are assigned. How it is assigned? Based on the rules. Okay, just remember this point. If you come across the scenario, you have a multiple users, for all those users specific role need to be assigned by following specific condition, then you may define. Otherwise, ideally we do through manual process. So this is all about role provisioning. So from tomorrow's session, we'll start with the inventory and purchasing. The flow of configuration will start. Okay, we'll start with the foundation of that inventory setups. Based on that, we'll do the purchasing setups and we'll run the first P2P cycle. Then we'll go with the module specific features and relevant configuration, and each and everything will be testing. Okay, first we'll complete the basic P2P cycle. Inventory basic setups, purchasing basic setups, AP basic setups, and we'll run through the cycle. After completing, we'll focus on inventory, then we'll focus on payables, purchasing, and after completing that, we'll configure O2C cycle, configure O2C configuration. We'll run the O2C cycle and we'll focus on OM and other application. Once we're done, we'll just look into this manufacturing basic applications, basic configuration, basic process flow. Okay, that's how we'll be doing. That is the sequence we'll follow. Okay, any questions on today's session, please?
Actually, here we created the mapping. I mean, mapping name testing. So, but we didn't. We didn't. I mean, associated while creating the employee, we didn't associate the mapping name. Only the person type. Only we associated.
No, 1 second. At the time of definition only, I included the point. That is instance level. Got the point?
Okay, so
not for specific.
Okay, so
within that instance, if you create employee by selecting the person type as a employee, it will be applicable. You cannot map. Only you can make the difference based on the conditions which you specify.
Specified. Okay. Suppose I consider, suppose I'm just created on mapping, test mapping. The person type is employee. Then I associated only the employee role. Then I create one more condition. I mean, one more employee. Person type is employee. Then job type equal to buyer. Then you can add one more buyer responsibility. In this case, which one will be applicable come to the user?
Which user, when you are creating, which one you are selecting? If you are selecting only employee, first one will be applicable.
So the user creation screen we have job
condition also, second rule will be applicable. That's all.
Okay. That means while creating the user person type employee, you have to select. Then bottom job is there. Yeah, job condition there. Select.
When you are putting the employee user, within the employee user, whatever the information you are giving, by meeting the same criteria, if there is any rule, it will verify.
Okay. So once again, we have to verify the condition before starting itself. Then only we can coordinate them.
Yeah, ideally we will be knowing, if you at all you are going to generate the auto provisioning, you will be the one who will be creating that rules also as per requirement, right? Again, you don't need to go and verify. Somebody won't create ideally, right?
Yes, you are correct. Actually, I thought the mapping name should be mapping one is only buyer, mapping name two is other procurement, other sales.
You can do name however you required.
Okay.
So mapping name buyer. Other mapping name may be buyer and employee. Means what you are include inside that you can represent within the name itself. Our understanding by seeing anyone can understand without opening that.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Fine. So any questions on
Lakshman? Yeah. And so you indicated there is a limitation for the contingent worker. It's only on the roles mapping, right, Lakshman?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
No, so employee type is like
Lakshman.
No, 1 second. Let him complete, please. Yeah, Kulakarni, please.
Yeah. So you have a contingent and employee, right? The two types,
Contingent worker, contract
right?
employee.
Contingent worker. Yeah, contract employee. So the limitation you indicated, right? For the contingent worker.
That would be in the HCM process. Okay, HCM process.
Now, what you're saying is like the role provisioning is limited only for employees, not for the contingent worker.
Yeah. As what we created, that's how we created. It is not applicable.
Okay.
If you go and create a employee user by selecting the person type as a contingent worker, for contingent worker person type, we didn't create any rule.
Okay.
It won't provision anything. We created only for person type called as employee only. Those are completely different values, right? We could see at the time of definition.
Yes, yeah, I know.
Yep.
So for the contingent worker, like right? Normally you hire a lot contingent workers. I can provision like all the roles, right?
Exactly. You're right. Yes, that's how we do.
Okay.
Yep.
So my second question is like like some companies and the contingent workers the lot of retention will be there, right? Like people like Amazon, right? Amazon the guy they have a lot of new workers coming, and I want to auto provision the roles based on the department or location, for example procurement or anything on inventory side or something. Is it possible through BPM or is it possible through is it possible basically?
This is how we have to create same. This is only the point where you have to auto provision from we created, right? In the same way, one time you create rule that will be triggering whenever you create the employee with the same conditions base. If the conditions are met as per the rule, so here provisioning will happen automatically. Any mismatch, it will respond.
Yeah, it's a great feature, like people companies a lot of Amazon they have a lot of retail people
That's why
every 2 weeks.
Common role assignment is required with some criteria. Then only it is useful. Otherwise, ideally no. Yeah. Fine.
Lakshman,
Yeah.
I have a question though.
Please.
As a part of this training, do you have this ISO process, internal requisition and internal sales order process? Are you covering that topic?
Yeah, we'll see that.
Okay, and excellent. Thanks.
Yeah.
Muted. Who's muted now?
No.
Sorry. Any question? Fine. Any questions from anyone, please? We done for today. Okay, you may drop from the meeting if you don't have any questions. If you have any questions, please stay back and no, 1 second. I'm just telling, please. Okay. So if you have any questions, please stay back. We'll discuss. If you don't have any questions, you can drop from the meeting. We're done for today. Yeah, please go ahead. Any questions?
Yeah, Lakshman, security console, we are creating implementation user, correct? Which we have created initially, and today.
Yeah, correct. Yes, answer is yes. Please go ahead.
Yeah, for ERP tree we created from that. This is also from security console only, right? For this HCM user, employee user also.
You joined now or you attended class?
I joined, but I might be.
From where we created? We created from manage users. That is HCM task.
Okay.
That is getting synchronized with the security console. That user also available here. That's what we discussed.
Okay. Manage users task HCM.
Manage users, right? Manage. I think in between you might have missed out that part. Okay. So we created from manage users. We didn't create ERP tree user from security console. If you create from security console, you cannot use that user to create the documents and for supplier definition. It should be employee user. That is the reason by using the task called as manage users, which we created ERP tree, which we treat as employee definition. That definition will be part of HCM only. The data also will get stored in the employee tables only. The per, which starts with the per person related tables. That's how it works. Okay. We didn't create employee ERP tree from security console. Any user, you may create user from security console. You may create user from HCM. That means manage users. That users, all the users you can find from security console for role assignment purpose. Okay, that is the point we have to understand. Even if you are creating from HCM by using the manage users, that users also getting synchronized with security console for role assignments and user management purpose. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, fine. Any other questions?
Lakshman, hi Saurav. I couldn't connect with you yesterday. I had sent a
Yeah,
WhatsApp and a
tell me.
message to the team.
Yeah, tell me like what you it Saurav, like tell me what you want to convey. Like you didn't connect means what?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a 2-minute discussion with you. That is it.
Oh, discussion. Fine.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just ask these guys like Saurav, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that. Fine. Any other questions from anyone, please?
I have a question regarding primary ledger. So we do assign primary ledger at the business unit level and also at employee role level. So can we have different primary ledger at both the levels? I have one primary ledger assigned to the BU, but at the employee role level, I have a totally different primary ledger. Will the system allow me?
Employee role not. The point is wrong. Employee level.
Can you hear me?
Okay. You are referring that GL roles, right? Okay, yes. See, we'll have a user, employee user. I'll just take you with this example. You create an employee user called as ERP tree. User creation time. Fine. That's different. Let me take here. You assign the say GL roles. For this, you are assigning the primary ledger. And business unit. You created business unit. For business unit creation level, you assign primary ledger. So your question is, can we have a different, right? Hello?
Yes, that's my question.
See here. Notice these points. So primary ledger, which you are assigning to GL roles, can be used in general ledger application. Right? GL means general ledger application. It can be used in general ledger only. So when we are going to assign this primary ledger to business unit, so this is for which applications?
For the sub ledgers.
Yes, sub ledgers. This is for GL roles means GL only. Only for GL. If you want to use, if you have a two primary ledgers, one primary ledger you may use only for GL purpose, where you are not going to implement subledger application. In that case, you can use one primary ledger for GL roles. Another primary ledger you can assign to BU, and again for this primary ledger also need to be assigned to, this is a different primary ledger that you can assign to GL roles. Those two will work as a separate. So this solution only for GL implementation. When you talk about assigning the different primary ledger to BU, for this primary ledger also need to be assigned to GL roles.
Okay.
So here
It makes sense. Yeah, I was just wondering why they have it two levels.
Yes, this is how it works. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. If you have one primary ledger, when you're implementing for one country, everywhere we have to use. If you have a two primary ledger, ideally we'll be having the separate definitions. you'll be using separately for subledgers and GL. Separate access will be giving. If you have a requirement, you want to have a solution only for GL, have one primary ledger, and you have a different primary ledger. Yes, that also you should associate with GL roles and the separate BU. Yes, this is how it works. But normally we don't see this kind of scenario, only for GL. Okay, if you are going to do the implementation, most of the applications are third-party application. The client is going to use only general ledger application to get the data from multiple third-party systems just to prepare the reports for other purposes or some consolidation purpose. In that scenario only, client will use only general ledger application. In that case, primary ledger definition is enough. There don't be any concept called as business unit definitions and all. But depending on mapping, just not for usage, for integration purpose and all, you may use that. Totally depends on scenario. Only you may see the client will use GL in that case. Yes, only for this logic only will work. This and all not at all required. But ideally, most of all the clients, whatever you see, they'll use GL and definitely subledgers. When they're using GL and subledger, so whatever they use in the GL, same primary ledger, they have to associate in for business units also. That's how these has to sync and work. Fine. Any other questions? Fine. No questions. We'll connect tomorrow and we'll start with the P2P based configuration. We'll start with inventory and we'll do the purchasing setups and we'll focus on specific modules one by one.